What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10, and then we either build them together or fix them if they don't quite meet our standards. Now this week we are building our Lore Bard. Normally those builds and the guides would be up the same week, but I had to put this build off for a week because we had a new book introduced to the D&D canon, the new Strixhaven book. And I mean, come on, it's a lore bard, someone searching for knowledge. Strixhaven is about a school. I had to use it. So basically I had to rewrite the build in order to work in the Strixhaven content, but we got it. And so I hope that you guys enjoy what has come out of this, and I hope that the wait was worth it. So I did have to rework a few things of the build, how I did some stats, some spells, that sort of thing. I had to change a few things around, but I think that you guys will enjoy it overall. If you are excited to see the new content in action, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch this channel are actually not subscribed, so it would really help me out if you would go ahead and subscribe. It really helps me out. We're trying to get to 500 subs by the end of the year, which I think is completely doable, but I need your help doing it. So once you've done that, make sure to click the bell so that you're notified whenever I upload new videos, and share this with your friends. Word of mouth goes a long way, even on the internet, and so I really appreciate your support. So the College of Lore Bard and the new Strixhaven book are kind of a match made in heaven, right? They complement each other so well and give you so many more flavor options when it comes to what your lore bard can be. So definitely read up on the new Strixhaven book, but I think that this fits super well. Of course, before you go and use Strixhaven content, talk to your DM. This material was definitely balanced differently than most other material, and your DM may not allow it at the table. We will not be using the new Silvery Barbs spell, just so you know, because I know that that's been a big point of contention for DMs everywhere. We will not be using that in this build, but keep in mind that your DM may or may not allow this content, and if not, this build may not be for you. But if your DM does, let's have some fun with it, shall we? At level 1, let's choose our race here. We're gonna go Variant Human. Originally I was something else, but that changed, and so we are going to take this, take Variant Human instead. We'll talk about our other options at the end in our honorable mentions. So we get a free feat because of Variant Human, as well as a +1 to 2 different stats here. So the free feat we're gonna take is Strixhaven Initiate. This is going to give us the ability to have some extra spells on our spell list. More importantly, it's a precursor to something that we have to do later. So we will talk about that in just a little bit. But for now, we get to choose 2 of 3 spells, and it depends on what school you choose. Now, you could choose any of these 5 schools. However, for this build, I wanted to go with the Quandrix. I think that this is a really, really nice spell list that complements the Bard spell list super well as far as filling that support role, because you've got a lot of Druid stuff in here, and I think that it really, really augments what we're doing. So you get to choose 2 of these 3 cantrips: Druidcraft, Guidance, Mage Hand. All 3 of those I'm pretty sure are in the top 10 of like all cantrips. So there's no wrong answer here, to be honest. All of them are really, really nice. So choose 2, and don't feel bad about not picking the other one, because I mean, you've made good decisions no matter what. Now, you also get a first level spell, but what makes this better than, say, Magic Initiate is that you get to choose from 2 spell lists. So here you get to choose from Druid and Wizard specifically. If you take a different college, then you get to choose from different lists here. I'm going to recommend going on the Druid list and picking up Goodberry. I think that it absolutely fits our support theme, and it'll really, really help out with your team if they get tired. Originally, I had Inspiring Leader on this build, but I no longer have room for it, so we are dropping that. And this gives you a bit of healing, a bit of help where that would have come into play. As for our stats here, we're going to go almost standard. We're going to change a couple of things here. Number 1, we're going with our 17 in Charisma, of course, 15 Constitution, 13 Intelligence, spoiler alert for things that are coming later, 12 Dexterity, 10 Wisdom, 8 Strength. We are very multiple ability dependent on this, but we actually are just taking the bare minimum in what we need in order to multi-class later, and we don't really need to raise it any higher unless you want to on your build, and we will get to that in just a few levels. So then we get to taking level 1 here. Also, we're going to put our +1 into Charisma and Constitution, giving us an 18-16 respectively, which is a really good start in my opinion. So Bard 1, we're going to start with Bard, nothing too crazy here. So we get our spellcasting and we get our Bardic Inspiration. Of course, Bardic Inspiration being one of the most amazing features in D&D. It's wonderful, there's no downside to that. As far as Bard cantrips, I would just take your favorites here. You're going to get a ton of cantrips on this build. I'm just going to tell you now, you're getting a ton of them. And so don't be shy to just pick your favorites and just go ham on these. You'll get 4 over the total of your build, at least from the Bard list, and then we're going to get more later. You already picked up 2 from your free feat. Yeah, you're gonna be loaded up on cantrips. You're probably gonna need to make a few extra lines on your character sheet, just saying. But then as far as level 1 spells, I would just suggest the basics here as far as control and support. So things like Charm Person, Cure Wounds, Fairy Fire, Sleep, Tasha's Hideous Laughter. What you don't have room for now, certain ones of these you'll be able to grab later. So just keep that in mind. You'll be able to grab most of these later should you miss them now, and that's totally fine. We also want to talk about something here that I normally don't talk about in my builds. We're talking about our background here for once, because we are taking a background from the Strixhaven book as well, and this gives us some pretty interesting features. Again, we are picking the Quandrix school here, but this gives us a huge list of spells that we can choose from. It actually technically gives us a second feat at level 1, which is ridiculous. And imagine if your DM is so kind as to give you a free feat as well, then you have 3 feats at level 1. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's kind of overpowered, but you know, if your DM says it's fine, then your DM says it's fine. Pick up Inspiring Leader if that's the case. But it adds a pretty long list of spells to your spell list. Now, keep in mind, it is not like Sorcerer where it adds it to your spells known. It is added to your spell list, so you can take these if you want to. They are not automatically known, so just be careful with that. They don't just automatically go on your list. So you get access to Entangle, Guiding Bolt, Enlarge Reduce, Vortex Warp, which is a new one, Aura Vitality, Haste, Control Water, Freedom of Movement, Circle of Power, and Pass Wall. Only 2 of these spells are repeats from the Bard spell list, and that is Enlarge Reduce and Freedom of Movement. Besides that, all of these are new, which is another reason why I like the Quandrix school. It does a lot of really cool things, but give me just a minute and this school is going to get way better. It's super, super cool. I really love this school. But you get Guiding Bolt. That's one big one for me that I would definitely consider taking. Vortex Warp, take it or leave it for me, to be honest. It's not busted. It's not terrible. It's just kind of somewhere in the middle, kind of lukewarm. It's fine. Haste, though. Always take haste. Take haste every time you can, especially on a build like this, where you're going to be maintaining concentration. We're going to be focusing on making sure that you pass those concentration checks and you just send in your allies and they just go absolutely ham. I think that this is an amazing way to get haste so that we don't have to waste our magical secrets on it later, because this is normally one that I would recommend to use your magical secrets on because it is that good. This keeps you from having to do that, and I think that it's amazing. Control Water is of course good. Circle of Power is pretty good, and Pass Wall is one of those spells that, like, most people don't bring it, but then you end up regretting not having it. You get in a certain situation where you need to get out of somewhere quick, and Pass Wall would have saved your life, and just, you don't got it because most people don't take it. I would consider taking it, especially on a support build like this. I don't think that there's a downside to you taking it. I think it's a good idea. So a lot of really, really good things at level 1. You are definitely high on the power curve here at level 1, being a bard with all of this stuff that you can do now. It's kind of ridiculous. So Bard 2, let's move on. So much spent on Bard 1. Bard 2, Jack of all trades. We get that in order to help us out with our skills. We get our Song of Rest at D6, and we also get our Magical Inspiration, making our Bardic Inspiration that much better. At level 3, we get to choose our subclass, and we, of course, are going with College of Lore. Now, our thing at level 3 is, of course, we get some bonus proficiencies, which is always welcome. It sort of mitigates the usefulness of Jack of all trades to an extent, but I'm okay with that. Jack of all trades still applies. We also get Cutting Words, though. Cutting Words is one of the most busted features that you get on this. It's super nice. It's always good adding a negative modifier to what your opponents are doing, and so I love this, and we're actually going to combo with this in just a little bit, and I think you guys are going to really like where this goes. We also get expertise here, of course, on 2 of your skills. We also get second level spells here, and again, we are going for more of a support build here, so I'm going to recommend some more support spells. I would go with Aid is one that I would definitely recommend taking. Enhance Ability, I would now take Enlarge Reduce, which you already have on your spell list. Invisibility, Lesser Restoration, Mirror Image, Silence, all of those are really, really good to take. Obviously, you're probably not going to grab all of them, but just something to think about. I think that all of them are really, really nice. Next up, we get Bard 4, and now's where things get a little cool. I don't normally get this excited about level 4 because it's an ASI or a feat, but we're taking a feat here that I am very excited to take, and it is going to be Strixhaven MASCOT. This is another new feat introduced in the new book. Now, it does have a precursor that you have to have taken Strixhaven Initiate earlier than this, and it can only be taken at level 4 or higher, which is pretty neat, but you have to combine them, and basically it's what locks you down to a school. So we are sticking with Quandrix here, and Quandrix has one of the coolest things that you can do with this. Basically, this feat allows you to cast Find Familiar as a ritual, which is amazing, but it gives you a different option as far as what familiar you get depending on what school you chose. Quandrix gets to do what is called a fractal mascot, which is basically a little like crystalline snake, sort of. Here's a picture of it. It's really, really neat. But it has some really interesting properties to it that make it an absolutely busted familiar, in my opinion. I think it's absolutely amazing. So first of all, it does have low AC and low HP. It dies pretty easily, but it's a familiar, so what are you gonna do? Here's where it gets a little crazy though. You can move through objects and people as if they were difficult terrain, and it has a speed of 30 feet. So 15 foot of brick wall, you can make it through that without taking any damage while you are looking through its eyes. Because it's a familiar, you still get to look through the eyes of your familiar and tell what's going on. And of course, this goes out to a pretty far range. This opens up your options to be absolutely insane. And if that wasn't enough, this thing can alter its size. You can, as a bonus action, either increase its size by 1 category or decrease its size by 1 category between tiny and huge. This thing can be huge sized. Now, it doesn't say that it does more damage or anything when it's huge sized or anything like that. The damage it does is pretty negligible, so I don't think that its attack is really all that necessary. But you could have this thing on your person as a tiny creature using the help action, or it can be a huge one and be a distraction for whatever you need. Either way, it's really, really cool. It's amazing for scouting. You've got this tiny little guy who can go through walls, who can go through people, who can get wherever you need it to get, and you can still see through its eyes. It also gives you the Find Familiar spell for free, which is amazing. That's why I didn't recommend taking it earlier, because you can get it here, and you'll technically get access to it later, and you won't need it then because you'll already know it. So you get a lot out of this. This is an absolutely amazing one. Keep in mind that you also can give up one of your attacks to let this thing attack. Don't do that. There's no reason for you to do that. The other thing that's amazing is that you can switch spots with this thing as long as it's within 60 feet of you. So you get in a lot of trouble, it's really easy to replace your familiar. It's not so easy to replace you. So it's amazing. You can switch places as long as it's within 60 feet of you, and then you can't do it again the rest of the day unless you use a second level spell slot, which is worth it to me. I think that's totally worth the get out of jail free card that allows you to do. So amazing. You get a lot at level 4. At Bard 5, we get our Bardic Inspiration upgraded to a D8 and our Font of Inspiration here. So now we are looking at a short rest rather than a long rest as far as getting that back, which is amazing. We get our 3rd level spells here. And again, I'm going to recommend some weird spells here. Catnap is kind of at the top of my list here in order to help out your people who like to sleep. It's very nice, and actually it's pretty cool to try to use it on yourself if your DM will let you. So I like that. Hypnotic Pattern, of course, really good. Tiny Hut, I think now is the time to take Tiny Hut. I love Tiny Hut. It's so good. Mass Healing Word and Slow are all really, really nice. Now, normally this would be the point where I would tell you to multi-class. Not going to do that this time. We're going to go one more level before multi-classing because we get additional magical secrets at level 6. I cannot put that off. I absolutely cannot do that because everyone in the comments will let me know that that's really dumb to put that off. So, I'm aware. Let's go ahead and take our magical secrets here as well as counter charm, but who cares? But we can go ahead and pick up Counterspell here. Now keep in mind that Counterspell is done no better on any other class than on a Bard, because you actually get to add Jack of all trades to your Counterspell roll, which a lot of people don't know, but that is rules as written. So use that next time that you want to use Counterspell. As far as for the rest of the spells that you could take here, a lot of them are already on the list originally. I had haste on this list. I originally had a bunch of other things on here, but I removed a lot of them because we ended up getting them through our feats and all of those things. So yeah, it really helps out. So as far as what else you should take here, Rope Trick I think is a really cool option here in order to possibly save your party from an oncoming whatever. It's a really good way to hide. It's a really good way to keep everybody safe. Love Rope Trick. Tasha's Mind Whip, one that I don't normally go out of my way to choose, but I think it actually is pretty cool on this build. And also, of course, Revivify. Revivify is always a good spell, and it really, really will help out your party if you don't have a cleric or something of that nature. So level 7, our character begins experiencing a bit of a change in what curriculum he or she would like to pursue. Maybe just the music classes weren't cutting it. Maybe there is a deeper search for arcane knowledge here. And we are going to be dipping into Wizard, a very weird dip for Bard for sure. Definitely have not done a Bard Wizard yet on the channel, but I think it fits really, really well. And again, I will explain a little bit more as far as our story goes here in just a second. I've had some comments telling me that I don't focus enough on the story, that it's just too much mechanically speaking, so don't worry about it. We're going to fix that right now. But I'll talk about that here in just a second. So for right now, mechanically speaking, we get our spell casting and we also get Arcane Recovery. So Arcane Recovery gives us back a spell slot here. We're only going to get one first level spell slot back because it's based on our wizard level. So unfortunately, it doesn't scale with our overall level. Otherwise, that would probably be busted. But so that's a free casting of shield or any of your other amazing first level spells. So pretty awesome. I think that's great. As far as spell casting goes, of course, intelligence is our main factor here. Our intelligence is not going to be very high. I'm just going to tell you, we're not really going to focus on intelligence all that much because we're going to be focusing more on support spells, on stuff that doesn't necessarily require a saving throw or an attack roll, things that just kind of happen. So keep that in mind here. But there's a lot of really good options on the wizard spell list. especially for a different reason we'll get to in just a second. But as far as cantrips, I would take Firebolt. I know Firebolt requires a roll here, and you're not going to be adding that much to it, but some reliable damage on a cantrip is really nice here. I think it's too good of a cantrip to pass up, even with a low modifier. If you roll well, great. You got a little bit of free damage. It's already scaled once. It's going to scale again here in a few levels. It's pretty reliable. Besides that, pick your favorites as far as the cantrips go. You're going to have access to so many good cantrips. The list is huge. It just is. As far as first level spells though, I want to keep in mind some things. I haven't talked about wizards on the channel yet, so just a brief explanation of wizards. You have a spell book as a wizard. You can write down spells that you find on spell scrolls. You can write down spells that you find in another wizard spell book. Anything like that, you can write those down. You can then use the spell slots you have to cast those. So say you found a 3rd level spell and you wrote it down in your book with the required time and materials. You can then cast that spell using your spell slots you have technically from Bard. These spell slots are shared. It's not like Warlock, and so you do get access to all of your spells using the same spell slots. So just keep that in mind. I think it's really, really nice. It's really handy for this build, and hopefully your DM is generous with those and the ability to buy materials to write all of these things down. As far as our first level spells go, Shield and Absorb Elements, maybe not and, but at least or. Take at least Shield or take at least Absorb Elements. I would probably take both because you're going to get a bunch of spells here. I think you get 8 spells here just in the 2 levels of Wizard that we're taking. So I would grab those. They're super handy. We're very squishy. We don't want to die, and this will definitely help in our survivability. Other things to keep in mind is that ritual spells do not use up spell slots if you cast them as a ritual anyway, and you don't have to have these spells prepared from your wizard book if they are rituals. You can plop down and read from your book to cast these spells. So I would focus a lot on some ritual spells here. The biggest example is Identify. Nobody wants to take Identify, but everybody wants Identify when you want Identify. When you found this crazy item that you don't know what it is, you want somebody to bring Identify, but otherwise you want all of your blasty stuff. Now's the time to take it. I think Identify is absolutely amazing here. I would also take Magic Missile for sure, just because it doesn't require a roll. It just does damage. So you're not really worrying about your low intelligence score here. Unseen Servant, Sleep, and Fairy Fire are also really good ones. I know I mentioned Sleep back in the Bard 1, but I think if you didn't get it then, it's fine to take it now. It is a little late, but again, it's not based on your spellcasting modifier here. So you could use it just on one enemy if they have too few hit points to meet what you roll, or you could do it on some minions if they have really low HP. It also would work out for you. Wizard 2 here at level 8, we get to choose our college or school of, I guess. College is Bard, school is this, which and then we're also in the Quandric school. Yeah, figure that out. So we are going to choose our subclass here, essentially. And I thought about picking something a little different. But I think for the flavor purposes, I think there was only one school that I really could go with and feel good about it, even if it's a little strong. I went with Divination. I went with the Divination school, which is a quite strong subclass for Wizard, especially just with level 2 features. It's very front-loaded, and it's really, really nice here. So you get a couple of things. First of all, you get Divination Savant. So all of your wizards get this feature, just depending on the school. It makes it easier for you to copy down spells from this school into your book. Cool. However, you also get Portent, which is one of the most busted skills in the game. It's really good, and it allows you to roll 2d20s at the beginning of the day and write those down. Then, at any point before someone rolls, whether it's yourself, whether it's your friends, whether it's your allies, if you want them to not roll and just use the number that you rolled, you can do that. So let's say you've got the opponent is getting ready to roll an attack and it's about to do a bunch of damage, and they rolled a hit. They go to roll to hit. You say, nope, you rolled a 3 with Portent. You expend that die, it's gone. But yeah, or let's say you rolled a natural 20. You could then use that or give that to your fighter, your barbarian, your whoever, and give them an automatic crit with that. This is the power of Portent. This is also the power of, if you roll something mediocre like an 11, a lot of times it's difficult to figure out what to do because you have modifiers on your monsters that are going to be so high. This is where cutting words comes in and works with that. So if you roll a mediocre in the middle roll, you can then mitigate those modifiers with your cutting words feature. It all works together. I think that Portent plus cutting words is amazing, and it's super amazing how they work together, and I think you'll be really, really happy with it. So now that our character has found out that a lot of your powers come from a learned or innate ability to see into the future, to call the shots before they're made, you now are like, maybe I could apply this to my music in some very inquisitive and some very prolific ways. So we're going back to Bard, and we are going to stay with Bard the rest of the way. So at Bard 7, we are overall level 9, and we're actually staying Bard the rest of the time. We get 4th level spells, and that's it. No features here, but that's totally fine. We get Dimension Door, Greater Invisibility, Polymorph. Those are my top 3. I think they're all really, really good spells on a support build. Bard 8, we of course get an ASI or a feat, and I'm done taking feats, so the rest of this is going to be ASIs, and we are going to finally, at level 10, cap our charisma. I know it's been a long time. We're halfway through our career here, and we're just now at a 20, but it's fine. Better late than never, right? Bard 9, Song of Rest goes up to a D8, and we get 5th level spells. Now there's quite a few here that I really like. Dominate Person, Greater Restoration, Hold Monster, Mask Cure Wounds, Modify Memory, and Raise Dead. All of these are great. I don't think you can really go wrong with any of these choices, to be honest. Bard 10, our Bardic Inspiration goes up to a D10. We get our Expertise with 2 more skills. We had a bunch to choose from anyway. And then our Magical Secrets. In my opinion, there are 2 that stand out to me a lot, but of course you can choose differently if you would like. To me, it's Wall of Force and Banishment. I think that both of these are really great for control at taking something out of the fight, whether permanently or for a limited amount of time while you get rid of some of the minions or get rid of maybe focus down on something else. Whatever it happens to be, Banishment is wonderful. And you do have a 20 charisma, so you've got the best saving throw DC that you can possibly have. And of course, Wall of Force is one of the best control spells, if not the best control spell in the game. I definitely highly recommend taking that. At Bard 11, again, no features here, but we do get 6th level spells. Eye Bite is one that I'm like, sort of sure, maybe take it. But Mass Suggestion and Otto's Irresistible Dance are for sure ones to take. I think that those are absolutely wonderful spells. Bard 12, we of course get another ASI or a feat, and we are now bumping Constitution. So Constitution is now going to go to an 18 in order to help our concentration checks. I know the rest of this is kind of boring as far as feats go, but in fairness, the first 4 levels, we packed in so much stuff that I think it's okay. And most of the time, people aren't going to make it to this level anyway, but we're talking if you do. Bard 13, we are of course going to get our Song of Rest up to a D10 and 7th level spells. The only requirement here is Force Cage. Again, Force Cage is always going to be really good on one of these. I just love it. And again, Portent and cutting words here on their attempt to escape. If they try to teleport out, they have to make a save, and you can use your stuff on that attempt. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Use it. But others, Project Image, Resurrection, and Teleport, other really good options, but Force Cage is a must. Bard 14, of course, Magical Secrets again, and Peerless Skill. Peerless Skill is a pretty good feature, but it's kind of the weakest of the skills from this subclass, unfortunately. As far as spells to take,
I would say Heal would be a good one. Heal is just a great cleric spell to use. It's wonderful. Just a straight heal of, I think it's 70 HP, which is amazing. Really good number. I would consider taking some of the conjure spells. Any of the conjure spells would be pretty cool, depending on what your flavor is that you're going for, although you already do have a familiar, so I would understand if you don't want to take any of those. And of course, the other would be Simulacrum. Simulacrum is one of the best spells in the game, so just take it. Bardic Inspiration at Bard 15 goes to a D12, and we get 8th level spells here. Dominate Monster, Feeble Mind, and Power Word Stun are definitely my top 3. I think that all of these you'll get some good mileage out of. At Bard 16, we're going to cap off our Constitution. That feels really good. That feels really, really good to have that by Bard 16. Yes, we're level 18. Again, better late than never. I think that this is an amazing thing to be able to do on a build that is so front-loaded with things that are not ASIs. Then at Bard 17, we get our Song of Rest boosted to a D12. And of course, we get our 9th level spells. Honestly, I recommend all of them on this build. I think all of them are great. Maybe not Psychic Scream for this build, but like if you do take it, good, great. But I think all of them are absolutely wonderful. Finally, level 20, Bard 18, Magical Secrets finally, and of course, you take Wish. Every time you take Wish. The other one I would recommend is Time Stop, but again, you can literally learn any spell in the game. So if you think there's something else that fits your character better, take it, because you get literally any spell that you want at this point. So that is our build. Of course, let me know in the comments what you think of this build, but let's talk about honorable mentions. Let's talk about what almost was, but ended up not being, I guess that's how you would say it. First of all, race. I almost went with a half orc here. Relentless Endurance would have been really nice in order to help our survivability. Again, we're very squishy on this character. Survivability's tough, and Relentless Endurance would definitely have helped. But I think we're okay without it. I think it's fine. Half Elf would have been really good. Half Elves always make really good bards. I think it would have fit really well on this build. And finally, I came very close to picking an Earth Genasi, actually. Earth Genasi, of course, give you access to Pass Without Trace, which is an amazing spell. You could get it from your Magical Secrets, but I don't really recommend it. I don't think it's that good to be able to justify taking it as a Magical Secret, but I think it's really nice, especially as a support build. As far as different builds go, originally this wasn't a wizard build. It became wizard when I changed to the whole school aesthetic. Originally this was a life cleric build, actually, in order to help us with our healing, in order to give us armor. That was the big thing, is to give us some armor proficiency that we desperately needed. But again, I think that with all of the features from the school, I think that it's tough to pass all of that up. Of course, we could have taken that at level 1 and still taken cleric, but I don't think it would have really fit the vibe we were going for. So I think for story reasons, it made way more sense to go wizard. Yeah, life cleric was really the only other thing that I thought, but yeah, it changed to wizard and made so much more sense on this current build. Then as far as feats go, I wanted to go Inspiring Leader, and it was on the final build, at least before Strixhaven came out, in order to give the temporary HP. Now, I normally don't recommend this feat because it's a little bit underwhelming, but I'll just say I've got a paladin in my Curse of Strahd campaign that I'm running right now, and he uses this every day. He gets up and gives a speech and gives some temp HP, and he has saved 2 characters' lives. Literally, they would have died, and he's already saved their lives twice, and we're not even to the second town yet. So we're getting some mileage out of it, and I think that it's absolutely wonderful. Actually, one of the characters got down to, if I had done 1 more damage to him, it would have been a straight up death, because I did so much damage to him at once. Yeah, it was very close, and Inspiring Leader saved his life. It's amazing. The other ones to consider were Fey Touched, but Fey Touched doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you can teleport with your familiar. So getting Misty Step, not as important because you have your familiar to do it, and you burn a second level spell slot to do it. So technically, it's just the same as Misty Step. So, although at the cost, a little bit more of a cost, but at a higher range. So it gives you a lot more options here. Moderately armored, I came close just to give us a little bit more tankiness than what we already have. And of course, tough. Tough, of course, would have helped with our HP. Of course, taking 2 levels of Wizard is going to hurt our HP a little bit, but we all roll poorly on HP as Bard anyway, so the D6 may not even matter, to be honest. But yeah, that is all of our honorable mentions. Now, next week, we are going to be talking about the College of Swords Bard, a very different take on what a Bard can be as far as a martial character. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. Until next time, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Hope you guys go see Spider-Man if you're into that. That dropped yesterday. I went and saw it yesterday, and it is it's pretty pinch emoji, I gotta say. It's pretty amazing. So I hope you guys will go and watch that. It's amazing. Until next time, I hope you guys have a safe weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, all the good things, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.